And then we're gonna discuss. So hopefully right now we have nobody and no one at all. But that's okay. That's okay.
No audience.
No audience.
But we have a lot to say.
We do have a lot to say. Probably too much to say. So our topic though, just for anybody who watches this later, is going to be kind of the law of parties and things like that that have to do with that. Yeah. I'm going to kind of enjoy this while we wait. You as well? You as well. Maybe we'll get somebody. Hopefully. Come on, peeps. Sometimes it takes a minute. So I'm going to be talking about the law of parties.
Mm-hmm.
And what's some cases that you can think of, Sid? Or that you wanted to talk about?
Charles Manson is one of them.
Your favorite. Yeah. And
there was another one. What was it?
I can't remember. Oh, you really like that Leslie Van.
Oh, Leslie Van Houten. She was released from prison.
Yes. Well, I will say this. Charles Manson, right, didn't actually commit the murders, right? But he was charged with everybody else, whether he committed them or not. Yes, the Manson family. Can you just set it over there? Thank you so much. You're the best. You're the best. And so he was charged with everybody else, even though he didn't actually commit the murders himself. And I think when you look at that, did he deserve to go to jail?
No. I'm actually happy that Leslie Van Houten has been released from prison. I think she could have been rehabilitated.
And this is where we disagree. And that is why I love having Sid on, because most people, when I meet with them, don't want to argue with me, and Sid will argue with me. So absolutely, I think he deserves to be in jail. He's a wackadoodle. And anybody who says some of the things he said, I mean, come on.
He's been through trauma, as well as the Manson family girls have been through trauma. And that can
almost half of them came from, hey, Natasha, woo-hoo. Almost all of them came from like really high-end families, though.
I understand, but if they got into like a cult with a lot of drugs and manipulation and psychedelics.
Okay, so like we haven't used drugs?
And they were very, very young. We have, but I'm just saying the trauma that they had come from, and just because they came from working class places doesn't mean that broken homes or domestic violence or broken relationships weren't going on in their homes.
No, I'm for real. I think like...
I think that she should have been released from prison a long time ago. I think the only reason she was released from prison finally, which she was a model citizen, was because Manson died. I mean, I think as long as he was living, he was tied to them in a way. So I'm happy she's out of prison. I think she can live maybe 10, 20 more years on the outside world. She's like 70 years old.
Mm-hmm. And so you think that somebody who goes into homes and literally hurts pregnant people.
That was the LaBianca family that she murdered. I don't know if she murdered the Sharon Tate, the pregnant lady.
Well, she knew about it though, probably, and was okay with it. And I mean, let's just keep it real.
She might have known, but she was influenced by a much older man with substances and very heavy psychedelics. They'd been through broken homes. He was a criminal who was institutionalized, who knew how to manipulate young women and lure them into his cult. And I don't even think he should have sat in prison because he never committed the crimes. I think he did kill somebody, but I know he didn't kill Sharon Tate or the LaBiancas.
Did he kill anybody?
He did kill somebody with one of his little puppets, Tex. I think his name was Tex.
Tex was cute, wasn't he? Was he the cute one?
I think he chopped off somebody's finger or something.
Tex did?
No, Manson with Tex and stuff. It was kind of like a drug deal gone bad, I think.
I actually like that nickname, Tex. Tex. That should be your nickname.
No.
Well, you're really into if you're into that kind of stuff,
But she was released from prison a few days ago, and I was actually very happy.
Were you? Were you one of the fans? We're like, yeah.
Not a fan. I just think that there are people out there who commit crimes when they're very young or get mixed up in things, and I think that they've repented and they've changed their lives, and I don't believe that just because they've taken a life, they should spend the rest of their life in prison.
And I can understand that thinking. However, we're talking about let's say that you didn't commit the crime too, right? So there's something I think I told you about in Texas, and I'm sure they have it in other states, but as somebody who covers some true crime, they have it in other states where there's this thing called the law of parties. And so what happens is, let's say that me and you, right? Let's say we're smoking some weed and popping some bagels or something, right? Mm-hmm. And we decide we're going to go rob where are we at? Mazatlan. Mm-hmm. We go do that, right? And I decide I get crazy and I kill somebody, and let's say you're with me and you didn't know that was going to happen because our only plan was to do one thing. Then what could happen is you would actually get charged with murder and get the death penalty, just like I did.
I know, and what I've seen in court and crimes and stuff is, let's say you were the one that brought the gun and then I got charged because we're both affiliated. We could sometimes get different charges. I could get the death penalty and you could just get life in prison. So I don't think that it's fair across the board, and I don't necessarily agree with just because you're affiliated with somebody or you're at the crime of the scene that you need to face the same consequences or punishment as well.
And so Natasha's saying if you do nothing to stop it, then you're just as culpable. And there's times, right, when I see that law of parties and I'm like, oh man, I feel for the person, but there's those times where I'm like, wow, how could you have let that happen, right? There's a case, with this group of people, and I don't know what state it is, but there's this couple. Mm-hmm. And there's this 7 or I don't know, maybe 5. Yeah.
The boys.
And then there's a girl with them.
Yes.
And
in
they
New
take
York?
this
in the park?
No, it's not New York.
Oh, okay.
But they take this couple, this guy and this girl, and they're just the most vivacious couple. And they take them to rob their car. Mm-hmm. And they bring them back to their house. And they actually rape the girl. I don't want to say it out loud, but they do the boy. And then they take the boy, dispose of him. I think they burn him. And then they take the girl and they do stuff with her and just do basically the same. And not everybody is a part of the murder, right? But they all participate. And even the girl who was just, I don't want to say just, she was there with her boyfriend who was participating in all of it. She got charged too. I wish I could remember, Travis Cobbins or something.
But there was another one, and it was I don't know if it was the 80s or 90s, but it's the something 5. Do you know
but I don't think they really did anything.
It was a bunch of teenagers.
That wasn't real.
I don't think it was real. Yeah. So I think I'm blurring them together. I just think that sometimes in fight, flight, or freeze, we make choices that affect us for the rest of our lives. I think sometimes people go along with things because they're in fear or from their own trauma, and mm-hmm. I think that it's just a fight, flight, or freeze response, and you never know what you're going to do. I would hope to think that I would, not encourage it, and I would speak out, and I would say something. But sometimes I can just picture people freezing in the moment and being scared to death, and just endorphins and adrenaline taking over and not really knowing what to do or how to process it from maybe their own experiences.
Yeah, and no, I agree with you, Natasha, that case is one where I said, oh no, they all deserve to rot, right? That's one where I said, I don't care if that girl was just sitting there on the side waiting for her boyfriend to come out the room. If it was me sitting there with my boyfriend and he was doing that, I'm getting those people out of that house. I don't care. what I got to do. I'm calling the police. I'm
And I'd have to
sneaking
know
out
the
of
whole
there.
story. I mean, in that situation, yes, it sounds like the thing that you would do is you would leave the situation, and if you couldn't, do anything in the moment, you would absolutely elope, leave, and call for help, and at least get help to the address. So I don't know the specifics of that case. I think I'm just speaking on the ones that I know.
Oh, I know. But I will say this. I mean, like, one thing that I've shared with some people, right? The bystander effect. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think one thing I can say is, you and I both have got, we both work in the mental health field, and a lot of what we do, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the great things we're able to do and bring is some of our own lived experience. And so, 20 years ago or whatever, we've got a lot of experience in being in the streets and just, running rampant, So I think even with that, there's things that places I wouldn't go and things I wouldn't do, right? There's a line, and I think my line, and I know you're looking at me because you know some of the things I've done.
It's funny because I just had this conversation with somebody at work when I was getting my computer fixed, and he was talking about this whole moral compass and this line of like integrity and morals and boundaries that you don't cross. And It was just interesting, so that's why I'm
okay. I was thinking you were looking at me because you know some of the things I've done, and I'm like,
I've already had this conversation randomly today.
Okay, well, I mean, I have done some things, but there's also like a line. And if we're together and you're doing something, I'm going to stop you. And I think you know that about me, right? Mm-hmm. And I trust you enough to know that like you're not going to do something super crazy. But I mean, sometimes we have done some, even as adults, like done some pretty funny stuff. But I mean, there's a line, even for young people, that you just don't cross. And I think sometimes when they cross it and you allow your friends to cross it and you're with them, I think I have to go with some people who are, Natasha, that, that's just not okay.
It's not okay. But what I know about like brain development and, just development of children and stuff, your frontal cortex isn't even developed until you're 25. So that whole reasoning and rationing, and I can understand how some of these people make the choices that they do. And I guess I can be a little bit forgiving. And I think that they sometimes need to have a consequence, but I don't think that it involves the rest of their life in prison.
Mm-hmm. And that's the hard part. I guess I sometimes feel like I don't want those people around me,
Yeah.
And because I am one of those people, many years ago, somebody talked me out of the death penalty. And so I'm not for the death penalty. And so because of that, I have to say I'm for life.
Really?
In prison, yeah, because there has to be a consequence.
A consequence, I agree, but giving up your life, no. And I
feel like if you take a life, I mean, how could you take a life and not give a life?
What if it's an accident? What if it wasn't premeditated? What if it wasn't, I mean, we've known people that accidents happen, and I've experienced some things where accidents happen.
I actually remember a guy who, over a car. Yeah. Well, this is one of my first lives that I did with Sid, and we just kind of did on the fly to talk about consequences of not being the person who commits the crime. For those of you who joined, I appreciate it. So I'm Crime.
Sid.
Yeah. One of my besties. So thanks I don't know, you can't even see me. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Now I got to figure out this. You guys know I'm old. It's hard to figure this stuff out.